We're back with more deck profiles. This time Blake is running us through Sandaconda V.
Welcome back to the Stabilized. I'm Blake, and today I'm going to be bringing you my Sandaconda V Coalossal deck, which we recently featured on the channel against Mitch's Melodic V Frostmoth deck. We didn't do too well on the channel, but I think the deck has a lot of potential going forward. Might need a few more tweaks, but this is the list we ran on the day. We played 3 copies of Jirachi. Jirachi, of course, is just there to set us up with its Stellar Wish ability. Allow us to find those ball search cards and our rare candies and the likes, and then hopefully get us to our stage 2 as quickly as possible in collaboration with our supporter cards. We also play 2 copies of Sandaconda V. Sandaconda V is an excellent new attacker coming out of Rebel Clash. It's got 220 HP, which is pretty good for a Pokemon V. And its first attack, for 1 fighting, does 30 damage and accelerates a fighting energy from the discard pile to this Pokemon, which is pretty respectable if you're in a pinch and you want to get some early acceleration to your Sandaconda, perhaps if you're going second. And its second attack, Sand Breath, does 220 damage for fighting colorless. Perfectly satisfies the condition of Coalossal. The colorless is fulfilled by the fire energy, and then the fighting, and then 1 manual attachment of a fighting energy to the Sandaconda fully powers it in 1 turn, allowing you to take 1-shots on most of the Pokemon V in the game with Sand Breath. And some of the tag teams if you have Diancie and Martial Arts Dojo down, which is pretty impressive, if I don't say so myself. We also play 1 copy of Ninetales V, another excellent attacker coming out of Rebel Clash. There's a lot of utility in its first attack. First of all, it's got 200 HP, but its first attack for Fire Double Colorless allows us to choose one of the defending Pokemon's attacks and use it as this one. So we can cheat out high energy cost attacks, and we can also use high utility attacks as well. So we can copy stuff like ADP's Ultimate Ray and accelerate to a Sandaconda. That would be amazing. We can copy Brave Blade of Zacian and take a 1-shot on it, much like how Mimikyu does it. We can even choose our opponent's GX attacks and copy those as well, which is exceptional, especially because we don't really play any cards that use GX attacks in the deck. So Ninetales is going to be the only card that's able to use one in the deck, really. So that is pretty impressive. It's also got a second attack that does 180 damage for a fire triple colorless, but I don't think you're going to be using that too much. Just too much energy for this deck. You're going to need 2 Coalossals in play, or a previous manual attachment to this Pokemon to be able to use that. I don't really see it coming in handy too often. I think in this format, if after declaring 1 attack, you're most likely going to have your Ninetales go down, unless your opponent really hasn't got anything going for them. But those are our attackers for the deck. We play 3 Roly-Coly in our Coalossal line. We also play 1 Carco, and then the star of the show, we play 3 Coalossal. Coalossal has 160 HP, and its Tar Generator ability is really similar to Vikavolt Strong Charge ability from the past. Instead of a Grass and a Lightning, and from the deck it's a Fire and a Fighting, but it's from the discard. A bit harder to satisfy the conditions of that one because you have to put the energy in the discard first, but once you have it in the discard, you don't have to worry about running out anymore, because all the Pokemon in this deck either will get knocked out the following turn, or they discard the energy off themselves, so you can use Tar Generator again, which is really strong. So Coalossal, a lot of potential in the future. I think as they release more fighting and fire types that are strong, you'll find more partners for this. And it might not even be the way the deck is built currently that Coalossal sees the most success. In fact, I doubt that this is the way this card sees success in its current build, because, I mean, as you could see from the video where we featured it on the channel, it didn't do very hot at all. But enough about that, and under our supporting Pokemon, we play a copy of Primate Wisdom Oranguru. An excellent card when you're trying to save resources. Primate Wisdom allows you to put a desirable card of yours on the top of the deck before you play Professor's Research. and save it from being discarded, such as like a Coalossal or a rare candy, and it also makes it that much easier for you to find the two-piece combo to evolve into a Coalossal in one turn. So very strong. Definitely, I would put a copy of Ungrew in every one of my Coalossal decks. I think it's just that powerful. We also play a copy of Diancie Prism to buff our damage. Allows us to get up to the range where we can knock out tag teams alongside Martial Arts Dojo. So a very important card in the list to buff up our fighting types. And finally, we play a copy of Eldegoss V. Professor's Research is our main point of call for drawing cards in this deck, and we're going to throw away key resources at times. So, including key supporters such as Boss's Orders or maybe a Skylar. So, Eldegoss V being able to grab those back into our hand, very important. So, having a copy of that, just in case, is very helpful to our cause. But that is it for the Pokemon line. Now, moving on to our supporters, which we talked about earlier, we play 4 copies of Professor's Research. It's the best supporter in the game. It allows us to see the most cards per turn alongside our Jirachi. And Oranguru, we can see up to 13 cards in a turn, which is really, really strong. And it should enable us to set up our stage 2s really quickly, even if it didn't do so in our featured video on the channel. We also play 3 copies of Marnie. Allows us to draw and set up whilst disrupting our opponent. Really strong card, probably one of the best new supporters to come out of Sword and Shield. We also play 2 copies of some Shuffle Draw old school style with Cynthia. Cynthia's been around for a while now, still very good, and I don't expect it to go anywhere anytime soon, especially in decks that like to conserve resources, such as Stage 2 decks. And drawing 6 is never going to be frowned upon. To help with our Stage 2 fighting abilities, we also play 2 copies of Skylar. I've got my old shiny full arts from Boundaries Crossed, way back when. Allows us, in combination with our Jirachi, to find the Rare Candy Coalossal combo, and should make it a bit easier to set up those Stage 2s. But even when you're dead drawing, you can just Skylar for a Research, or a Quick Ball, maybe to get Eldegoss into the supporter you do want if there are none left in the deck. So there's always options. Skylar, a very versatile supporter. But lastly, and probably our strongest supporter, we play 2 copies of Boss's Orders. Boss's Orders are the strongest card coming out of the new set, I believe. Allows guaranteed gust onto all Pokemon. There's nothing that gets away from this. Pokemon V are finally able to be gusted without needing custom catches. Same with non-GXs. Now we don't have to rely on the combination of customs and great catches, or ever having to rely on a flip ever again. So Boss's Orders are definitely a welcome sight in these times where we have lots of different types of Pokemon to gust. We also play 2 copies of Martial Arts Dojo for our stadium. It's a really strong stadium in this deck. Allows us to hit those numbers when we're behind on prizes, to knock out tag teams with the Diancie Prism and the Martial Arts Dojo down. Sandaconda V can knock out any tag team in the format, which is really strong. So giving our Sandaconda the ability to do that is all the reason we need to play 2 copies of Martial Arts Dojo. Unfortunately, due to space, it's a Stage 2 deck, we can't really afford to play more. We also play 4 copies of Quick Ball. Search out all of the basics we have in our deck. We do have a lot of basics, everything but the second half of the Carcol, the Coalossal line is all basics. So for Quick Ball, just the best search in the game right now. And it also allows us to discard those energies that we need in order to power Tar Generator. So definitely a necessary choice for the deck. We also play 2 copies of Pokemon Communication in order to search out the non-basics in the deck, which is the Carcol and the 3 Coalossal. So 2 is enough to get us there. If you don't think that's enough, if you're considering building this deck yourself, I would suggest maybe cutting. I feel like there's actually a few too many supporters in the deck. I was using Professor's Research into a lot of supporters when I was playing, so maybe cutting a Marnie and a Cynthia, or potentially a Skylar if you don't like it very much from the deck, for another 2 of the Pokemon Communication, or switching Pokemon Communication into Evo Essence also is a possibility. if you do have luck trying out the different build, let me know. I'm interested to find out how you guys go with that build. For that, this is what we ran on the day. But now we play 3 copies of Switch. 3 copies of Switch allow us to move around our Jirachis and our really heavy Pokemon, which is every Pokemon. Jirachis, I think, apart from Jirachi, Ninetales, and Eldegoss, the only 3 Pokemon in the deck that have 1 retreat, maybe. Everything else has more than 1, which is also maybe another reason why we had such a hard time against Mitch's Milotic deck, which preys on high retreat Pokemon. But we certainly didn't do ourselves any favours. I think that's partially due to the fact that we only play 3 Rare Candy currently in our list. I think going forward this deck definitely needs to play 4. I think it's a mistake to play any less than 4 in a deck that relies on stage 2s. The list that I got this inspiration from when I built this list was a Japanese list that obviously made a bit of a greedy call to go with Rare Candy here because of the addition of the Carcol. They thought maybe they didn't need 4 copies, but there's only 2 Pokemon communications and only 1 Carcol, so it's not that easy to find that guy when you're playing through, and I certainly had a hard time finding it. So maybe consider, instead of a 4th communication or Evo Essence, maybe bump that up to 4 Rare Candy if you're going to build this yourself. But we have 2 copies of a Skateboard, just to help our Jirachi pivot into our other Pokemon. And between that and the 3 Switch, you just need that as part of your Jirachi ensemble, as everyone knows if they've built a deck with Jirachi these days. And lastly, we've got our one-of items. We have Tool Scrapper, a Reset Stamp, and Ordinary Rod. Tool Scrapper is a really strong reprint. I haven't seen this card in a very long time, ever since Dragons Exalted back in black and white, yeah? No, there's that X and Y. I lose track. Anyway, we have a lot of strong tools at the moment, and having something that can remove tools that doesn't cost you a supporter card is very good. I'm happy to have this card back. So we play one of that because there's a lot of pesky tools around that mess with our numbers, like Frying Pan, for example. We also play Reset Stamp because we're a stage 2 deck, we fall behind, we need a catch-up mechanic, and Reset Stamp is that catch-up mechanic for us alongside Marnie. And Ordinary Rod in case we ever have some really bad discards of research, if we lose a Coalossal, or we have lost too many of our attackers over the course of the game, we can recycle them, get them back out as soon as possible. And that does it for the items. Lastly, we have our energy. We play 9 copies of Fighting Energy, and then we play 3 copies of Fire Energy. We only need 1 Fire in the discard at all times so that we can use the full effect of Tar Generator for Coalossal. We play 3 so that even if we have bad prizes, we can, and also so that we can find it easier because there's no energy search in the deck. As soon as we find one, we get rid of it with Quick Ball or Professor's Research, and then we're good for the rest of the game. Otherwise, we can use it as a manual attachment to Ninetales if we like, but mostly for the rest of the game we're going to be using our 9 Fighting Energy as manual attachments. So we play a high count of that. That may be too high, 9 Fighting. I could maybe see it going down to 8 and still working, maybe bump up the consistency a bit. But this is the list that we run with on the day. It's definitely not the best list, it needs a lot more work. And I think once we get the cards on PTCGO, we're going to give this deck another crack and maybe build it again from scratch. And that way we might have a bit better luck with it. But thanks for joining me today. As always, I've been Blake, and I'll hand you back over to Mitch for the rest of the video. Bye, guys.
Thanks very much, Blake, for running through that list for us. It's certainly an interesting one, and it's a shame that we didn't get to see it doing as well as it could have in our gameplay footage. That's fine though, because we'll definitely run through this list again as we update it when Rebel Clash comes out on PTCGO. If you want to see that video or any other videos that we release, then I'd genuinely recommend subscribing. It makes me feel really good. It takes 2 seconds, and you can always unsubscribe if you don't want to be a subscriber anymore. You can do that by clicking the button that's just here. That would be great. Over here there are some videos that YouTube thinks you'll like, as well as a playlist down the bottom for more videos from us. That's all I've got. Thanks everyone. We'll see you next time for more from the Sableyes. Bye.